And after we will try to do a very vast landscape about our activities here in the University of Los Andes. And I invite our very active professors to speak very short, but to give and to share with you their activities and their thoughts about these activities in the different areas of visual computing. To continue with after the coffee with the specific talks of our guest, Carolina Cruz Meira, that is a high reference in cave thinking and methodology, and the recent utilization of this immersive technique to enhance the human capability to collaborate and to take decisions. In medical imaging field is an, of course, outstanding reference in the world, and she will share with you and with us and with me, I hope, her thought about this important field. And after the very short lunch, because if you have too much food, is very heavy in the afternoon. Steven Feina from Columbia University, that is one of our, in personal point of view, our big reference in computer graphics, interactive computer graphics, in particular interactive, is my main keyword. Talk with us about the augmented reality collaboration tool, and finally this very dense sequence of knowledge share. Dirk Sexer from Leipzig University will share with us the medical imaging data analytics, his work in Leipzig University. And after the coffee, we will begin to speak our collaboration, and the first case, and this is a very important collaboration project that we conducted in the last 4 years with Kaiserslautern University, sponsored by DAAD, Germany. And happily, the director of the DAAD for Latin America should be today with us, but he's unhappily sick. He sent us a message yesterday. So we will see a very short landscape of why we are doing this kind of collaboration, the architecture and the results that we are building the next step. And finally, in very informal, more informal than this first presentation, to share with you our very short history in the last 20 years, and why not to think about the next 20 years, what are our challenges in order to discuss them with you. And we will go to our collaborator laboratory Colibri, that we are 10 years of this very interesting research facilities that we built, and to discuss with our students and researchers around the posters. We have around 32 posters, John Alexis. Maybe 30, it's a Fusi data, 30 posters that will be undoubtedly a very interesting change space. It's the journey for today, and I think that is the privilege and a very simple way to begin to say thank you of our guests. You did a very big effort to come for very short times with very long distance, with not necessarily very local, for very high comfortable conditions, and we appreciate very much this contribution. I begin to invite Hans Hagen to put some dynamism here.
Okay, I am Hans Hagen, and no hablo español perfectamente, but I try to say a few words in Spanish, and please don't leave the room and don't laugh too much. Yo soy Hans Hagen, y soy muy feliz y orgullosa de trabajar con ustedes. Nuestra colaboración ha sido muy exitosa, así que seguimos adelante. Y español no es muy bueno, pero la próxima vez la haré mejor. La colaboración internacional interdisciplinaria está clave para la paz y el éxito. La siento mejor de ponerme en el artículo, así que mejor sigo en inglés. So I try to say in Spanish that I'm Hans Hagen, and I'm very happy and proud to work with you. Our cooperation is extremely successful, and it's fun, and it's going well. Sorry, my Spanish is not very good, but next time I try to do better. International cooperations is a key to success and to some extent to peace. Sorry, and I had to stop embarrassing myself, and so I switched to English. Okay, I like to do this international work because in the meantime I'm unfortunately older than 60 years. And like Frederick, for example, I remember the times when in Europe there was a German-French border. I live in the really close to that former border. In the meantime, nobody cares. You just walk, hike, travel, and nobody stops you. That is true to some extent in the eastern part. And those are all changed in these years, and especially for the young people, and I want to address this. You live in a global market, and during your study and your education and your PhD and so on, it's very good to do it in an international environment, because that's where your chances are, and what we should push. And so I'm going to start with who was brave enough to come to Germany and work with us. Lots of people you see displayed here. I give a little summary of what we did and how it worked out. So we start with Diana Fernandez. She was one of the early people who came to Kaiserslautern. And international cooperation, there's always one risk, because it's international. So not everybody goes back to their place where he or she was born. For example, my son now lives in Arizona and he has dual citizenship and is a professor there. And he didn't come back to Germany. Oh, I don't have a problem, I'd like to travel. So Diana, sorry, Josef de Beer, we did steal her, so now she works in Germany and joined an international company after her PhD. Now she lives most of the time in Germany. So it can always happen if people study and work abroad, that they're going to stay or they move. Okay, she got a PhD in engineering in Kaiserslautern and Master of Computer Science and Bachelor of Industrial Science here at Julianus. What she did, and she worked in a so-called international graduate school. And this is, actually it's pretty new what you can do. Sometimes the politicians in Germany have a smart idea, sometimes. And so what they created on the German National Science Foundation level, we also have graduate schools where people can go for a PhD. It's a 3-year program after your master, and it's for us a fast track to a PhD. Then we decided to make this international. So to cooperate on an international level with other universities, and people go for PhDs in this program. And Diana was one of the first who did this. In the meantime, we have the second of this international graduate school, and we try to plan. We want to talk to you on Friday. Maybe we can do something together in the next period. Also, it worked. You have 3 years' time, and in the 3 years, you spend each year at least 3 months at the partner university in your PhD program. And there's a new proposal to write. It's not so easy to get, but once you have it, it's nice because it's a research program for 9 years. And for 3 times 3 periods for students to be successful. So Diana took her chances. What she did, I didn't want to go too much into details. You can look it up on the internet anyway, and it's on our web page. So just a short summary of what she did. She started with a background in industrial design and computer science, and then PhD in engineering. So you see, it's not only international; it's very broad. But this is where the future are. Interdisciplinary international work is the key to success. This is obvious, so there are a couple of bottlenecks. For example, for young people, you got to be honest, you have to work very hard. Because you cannot be too narrow-minded, not too focused. You have to make sure that you know a lot and learn a lot in other disciplines. And this is a lifelong learning. I studied in mathematics and I moved to computer science, and I do visualization, geometry, and modeling. And if I don't have anything to visualize, I'm without a job. So that means all the time, you learn things, not using medical imaging, certain engineering disciplines, but in civil engineering, urban planning, but also in social sciences. Now she works for Hexagon, which is an international company, and she's at the data management level. So what she did here, okay, let's look at lighting simulation and factory planning. And this is not just a nice thing to have, it's actually necessary. If you go back 100 years and people worked in a factory, and there was an accident, people got injured, it was normally something that a machine didn't work well, things were not stable enough, and people got injured. In the meantime, it's very likely that there's too much noise in the factory, the lighting isn't correct, and that makes people sick too. That's a real challenge for your health if you work many years under these conditions. The lighting isn't correct, it's too noisy, and that is also not a good idea for your health. And so we can, in the factory planning, not only the layout is planned, but we have some kind of micro simulations of lighting, different microclimate effects, in the meantime, the noise and so on. That's what she did. So you see, you need some in topics, you need some physics background. You have to understand the laws of physics, and you have to apply and combine it with this factory layout. So next was with this. Normally all things work, you have an application area, and then that triggers some basic research in computer science and mathematics. But the basic research you do, there's algorithms you develop. So in nearly all cases, very general. So you can use it and adapt it to your situation. So the next step was to have light simulation and with lighting roadwork areas, so solar power. That was done in California, part of it in Arizona. And so now the underlying technique, for example, so what is visualization all about? It's not just produce nice pictures you want to look at, nothing wrong about doing animation stuff, or especially for children, I like to go to Disney World and see things. But this is a little bit different effect. Visualization is that your computationally steer certain processes and you test the results before you actually develop things. So you need some tools to make decisions, to support the decisions. And here is, for example, this analysis spatial temporal event data. I'm not going to go into the details, but here you can see that if you turn the wheel the right way, you get all the information in September, October, whatever you want. And here the same thing goes for Twitter events in Bogota. Okay, please look at the details, ask me the question later on. I just want to give you kind of a survey here, summary what happens. Please feel free to look into the details. Well, the next gentleman I really like to work with, and this is Alejandro, and he came together with Diana, and he worked on, you see his background here, also very broad, electrical engineering, computer science. Then he went in the PhD here, and he made some mistake to have me as a committee. Okay, but it's not fine. Okay, now see what he is doing. He works in the company as a part-time professor here, and do the summary of his work. And here is coming up to the word feature. Sometimes when people look the first time at visualization, they mix it with computer vision. It's not so much about Germany built for, but in visualizations, the features are sometimes unknown. So some hidden structures you have to visualize. And once you have a feature definition, you certainly should apply. Well, I think this is pretty interactive here. So Alejandro, if you want to say 2 or 3 sentences to your work, feel free to do it, please. Oh. Diana cannot be here, but Alejandro is.
Okay, hello everyone. Such a surprise. This is part of my PhD thesis. Here we have the roots of taxi applications. So the main idea was to bring the users from taxi to analyze this data. This data was supposed to be used by some traffic experts. So we have, for example, there the original destinations. So in which hours we have more trips demand or trips offered. And the main idea was try to plan where to put the taxis in the rush hour in order to improve the time to cover that persons. Another kind of visualizations include some black lines that represents the uncertainty of the data, because the data is not perfect. The data has some problems, so we try to represent by using this kind of interactive application. So if you have more questions, you can just contact me and ask for it. So thank you.
Thank you. So here's the PhD committee. So you see Hans, not only Hans Hagen, but also David Sexer. And we work together with the students group since 2011. It's a long time. And once you start working with us, it's hard to get rid of us, so we always come back. So, next is one of the Camilos who became part of the program. And again, he is a person with industrial design background and master in computer science. And he worked especially in measuring in urban systems development and traffic planning. As I told you before, there's a little bit different applications, but from the computer science point of view, from the analytic point of view, the problems are very similar. So you can learn from each other, and then you can work together, and that's what you should always do. You know, this field is not a kind of an education for paratroopers or something like that. It's to work together and to interact. Because in the end, people want to use your system, and it should be user-friendly and understandable and usable for these people. We get back to this collaborative environment quite a bit, which is the kind of red line for the talks in our day. So, and you could use it and successfully use the analysis of traffic accidents in Bogota. Again, please contact the person directly and go to the website. Please feel free to use and to play around with this web platform, which was developed as pretty intuitive. TransMilenio, that's all what you know, these details here in both times. Traffic is all over the world a problem, and many groups are working on that. It looks easy from the beginning, but what's the real bottleneck is, at least I think, is a different legal situation in the countries. So you have different legal frameworks you have to consider. It's just not the geometry, it's the topology you display. You have to come up and follow rules, and these rules are different and sometimes not so logical. So, and who got some fines here and penalties? Nobody, but maybe you want to prepare yourself to avoid it. And here's a piece on the main avenue piece of Bogota. Okay, so next is Carol. Carol is in the current International Graduate School IRT. This is International Research and Training Group. There's numbers. So we had the first one, it's also for 9 years. It's co-funded, the co-funded a little bit longer. Now the current one is mechanical engineering. This is Carol. Is part of it. She's going for a PhD. You are now in the second year, is that right? Or? Yeah. Yeah. So maybe come up. So this is Carol. And she's by human centered design into mixed reality environments. And maybe you introduce yourself just 2 minutes and say a little bit. So please.
Well, my first contact with Kaiserslautern was with this program with the ADE already 2 years ago. We made some projects together with Diana Fernandez as well. And with other people in the Kaiserslautern, including Professor Javi. And this is this is my master's thesis that I developed when I was there in the Kaiserslautern. The idea was to provide collaborative features to web-based applications of visual analytics that are not easy to include if you have a particular visual application, a particular application of visual analytics that you develop yourself.
Yeah.
So we based the example in Strad, but the idea is that this toolkit can be applied to any visual analytics application. And we try to include all the main features of collaboration that are collected in the state-of-the-art literature review. So basically, there are group awareness. So we show how it will do, how are the participants collaborating with a particular analysis. We can annotate and collaborate with the participants. We have a history. So we can also have a storytelling, and we can check how the different experts can analyze the data and what are queries and what is important data to analyze and to share with the participants. And this is my current project for my PhD. This is in collaboration between the University of Kansas-Southern and the University of Davis, California. And the idea is to include or how to bring all the capabilities of augmented reality and mixed reality, that is a bit more general, into the context of manufacturing systems. So in particular, we are considering how to model dynamic environments, because mostly these augmented reality applications are based on static modeling of the scenes. And we want to use the potential of the context that we can collect from all the sensors that are included in our systems. And we want to also improve the natural interaction. So this is like the main base approach. So we have like 4 areas. We are keeping in mind that we have a dynamic scene generation, we have natural interaction, and for that we are using all these multimodal interfaces. The most important being the HoloLens, because it has a lot of sensors already embedded there. And we are designing them an adaptive cycle to generate dynamic answers according to the interaction with the users, without asking the user what is the next step, but we are suggesting steps according to the direction, and we are applying it to training in manufacturing tools. This is a particular example. This is one example of the UC Davis, and we are trying to improve the manual grinding of that. That is a tool, a manual tool for grinding. So we're trying to optimize the orientation to get better results in shorter time.
So it's a different story. Thank you. So that was kind of a summary of what's ongoing and what we did in the past. And now I want to give some idea what we can do in the future. So we have already one international graduate school that was in started 2005, and currently there is something with the lead of mechanical engineering in Kaiserslautern and UC Davis and UC Berkeley. And we're working right now and preparing the idea to push for another international graduate school. This cannot be done in 2 weeks. Normally the preparation for such a proposal is around 2 years. And so our plan is in the next 15 months to have the first draft. So and what we want to do is, here's the topic, is designing sustainability, modeling simulation, and visualization. Here's the basic principle. We have certain application areas. They take a basic research problem in computer science, mathematics, and we try to have a feedback loop into the application areas. These funds, the main funding is the German National Science Foundation, but it's part of the programs that we have co-financed and funds. So that's in the States, and it should be the same here in Latin America and in Colombia. And in Germany or Europe, it's the national laboratories, like Fraunhofer, or we have Max Planck institutes. They support this too, and the industrial research centers, like German Aerospace, for example. So first, okay, you have a kind of a kernel of universities who push it. Then you have the basic funds, the funds from the National Science Foundation, and on top of it, from the labs and from industry. In Germany, it's mainly car industry, at least they use the first one. So the first one, I give you a little idea of how that works. The very first one we had, that was University of California, Davis, Arizona State, University of Utah, Irvine, Kaiserslautern, because they're different tools, it would only be one Kaiserslautern. And then the co-finance side, that was University of Linköping, Sweden, and in France it was University in Grenoble. So that is what we could do, and altogether in these periods, 3 times 3 years, we had an average of 25 PhDs in this 3 years on this international level. Students spent at least 3 months a year, most of them more, at partner universities. That's at INSEAD sites in Sweden and France. So the idea, this is a key team to work on that. It's building on the lead of University Leipzig, is Gary Schreiber and Dirk Saxon, and most likely is Dina Gilman. The building on the American side, the lead at Arizona State, is Ross Marchevsky, who used to be at Purdue, and he states also has he has an NSF Research Center on sustainability in Arizona State. And here, you could easily convince Joseph Tiberi to take the lead here and do all the dirty work and work hard with his team to do it. Thanks. And I try to do my best. So what we want to do, what the idea is, here. So that's the overall structure. Here you have 4 basic research application areas: food, energy, water nexus, resiliency under climate change, sustainable simulation-based architecture, health system engineering. So if you look at this, it's rather broad. It's the next idea. Why don't we talk about sustainable simulation-based architecture? Why not urban development? Why not regional development? Why not city planning? This is a political issue. We already had the funds for 9 years for these topics, and we cannot apply again. Because we are shown with the German National Science Foundation, and you call them quite often, you know, and sometimes they don't say hello to you anymore, so I ask you, what do you want again? So if you have something else. So we cannot duplicate this. Triggered in on the side in computer science and mathematics, modeling issues, simulation, visualization, and computational steering of the processes. And another bracket is perception and teaching sustainability. This is not only a center for research, it's closely connected to teaching and to educate people in a different way and to upgrade the teaching and the perception. So that's what we try to do, and we have later on or tomorrow some time to talk more about details. And a couple more minutes. So why? So these are the next steps. For example, here this is the overall idea going back here. Basic application problems, basic research problems, and here's a little bit. It's the first next step, how to do it in topic 3, sustainable-based architecture. So what architects told me is that they want to consider a certain structure of people build buildings over centuries and kind of filter out the rules you should do and not do, and then goes into a concept. And then you apply that concept in this computational steering, simulation-based optimization. You see all the different types, there are different variants, and really optimize it. So why food, energy, water nexus and resiliency under climate change? These are the topics, two topics of 4 or 5 at the research center at Arizona State. So that's given by Ross Marchevsky, and the work is since 10 years. And here see how we split things up. So 3 domain scientists, plus 2 computer scientists, and the co-funds. You always have to double everything what you see here. You only see the National Science Foundation. So that's what we try to want to do. And that was the first one, international visualization of large and unstructured data sets. The application is geospatial planning, modeling, and engineering. So it was earthquake engineering and town and city planning and urban development on the German side. And I don't want to go into many details. And these are the slides for later on for our meeting. Let me point out one thing. What you see here, it's for 9 years. 12 PhD students funded by the NSF, but on top of it, we did run it with 25. So this is all the co-funds. And the postdoc was ungiven by the NSF, on the NSF, and altogether we had 5, sponsored by the industrial partners. So that's maybe a part of the future, what we could do. It was a pleasure to work with you. I really liked that. I learned a lot, and let's keep going. Thank you. I see it here or here. Let me see. I was supposed to see it. I see it. I love this wiring. I've devised it for 30 years and built myself.
Okay, thank you, Hans. We will invite Paulo as the master of our team's presentation. Of course, we are 6 professors that we are conducting different projects in the different lines of visual computing, and as we are almost ready.
We're ready.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Pablo Figueroa, one of the professors here at Imagine, and it's my pleasure to present the other professors that I invite to join us here in the podium. John Alexis Guerra, which is somewhere, Marcel Hernandez, which is also somewhere, coming soon, I guess. Pablo Velázquez, who is our newest and invited professor from Phoenix, and Renato de la Rosa, who is also coming soon. It's almost here. So we'll try to do something very short, just to keep it active. We'll try to do a 10-minute presentation, each one of us, of what is happening in the research that we are doing in general in visual computing. And at the end of these talks, if you have any questions, please address those to us. So I want to invite Alexis to start this. And I'll put here a timer, so we know more or less how time is. Yeah, hopefully. Okay, thank you very much. Since I have a timer, I'm going to try to be super quick. Let's hope that my slides working here. Usually I present from my computer, so if everything crashes, just laugh and everything will be fine. So I do work in the area of visual analytics in Imagine. In there, the first thing is what is this whole idea of visual analytics? So many times when you try to make sense of data, you can use statistical methods, or you can try to use machine learning or artificial intelligence, which is really cool. But then there's also another alternative, as Hans already presented many examples. You can use visual analytics. This is the way I like to present that, is that usually when you try to use statistical methods or machine learning, you usually have like a black box, that many times the analyst doesn't really know what's happening there, what that thing is doing. But it produces like correlations, outliers, and things like that. So the users come with some data, and do that, and then there is a process that can take like a couple of weeks or something like that, and then they present something, and the user many times have no idea what that thing is. So another alternative is that the user comes, and there is a hands-on analyst that receives that same data. And what we do is that we create interactive information visualizations that allow the users to see that data and interact directly with it. That's why there is an arrow in there versus the other one, where they're only receiving information in one way. Every time they have a question, they have to wait for another couple of weeks to get it resolved. This is kind of cool, and you guys have some and all, but the problem is that it doesn't scale up very well. So a combination of that is what we call visual analytics. That is a combination of information visualization with machine learning in a way that, or statistics in a way that the user can get the results of the data, understand that in its own language, and then also interact with the interface that will interact with the model or the statistics, and which will go directly. So I already wasted a lot of my time, and of course this doesn't work very well here on the slides, but basically this is a small panorama of everything that we do in our group. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that we have done and what we are doing for visualization. Then we are going to go and discuss a little bit about the things that we are doing in this area of large data visualization. Then we're moving to the area of information visualization, and finally, if there is enough space in the screen, but I don't see enough, we are going to do some things in accessibility. So, and then let's see if I can escape that. Good. So let's start with it. So let's go with photo visualization. In there, we have done a ton of things. What happens if you have a bunch of images and you want to show which of those images have received more views or is more important? And we have something that is called a photo tree map, and we did this in the class with, as you can see here, with one of our brand students, Luis. From there, we also work with David in something called Photo Rig. That is the whole idea of what happens if you have millions of photos and you want to navigate those photos across many dimensions. I don't have time to show you a demo, but everything is on the slide, so you can see that in there. Then in that problem, as you can see here on the left, there is a very ugly list that contains many different elements. So the whole idea is that with Andres, we wanted to create a widget that would allow us to navigate with that. So he's currently working on this, so please go and see his poster today. Then moving to Lerche database, because of time, we have been doing a lot of work in something called Navio. See, oh, this worked good. So this is one of the early things I did in the past, where we created this small widget to help us navigate these complex networks, like those ones in there. From there, let's see if this thing keeps on going. So with that, we created like things like this, where you can navigate like a big collection, like something like the MoMA collection that has 133,000 pieces. 133,000. So as you can see, there are holes here in the height and the width. And you can interact with these to select the specific areas, but I'm scared to do it because this is not a computer. If you want to load that on your own data, we have another project called Chipyard, where you can just drop in there your own data set and you can explore it using the same technique. And since I don't have time, give a demo. And then the problem is that in there you're confined to whatever you can show on the browser. So that usually can be a little bit limited. So for Camilo Ortiz, we are finishing a master thesis where we're getting an architecture that allows you to have also a backend that lets you go into higher data sets, higher level in terms of size. From there, we also have been working currently with Lady. She is repurposing one of the most famous tools that has been presented in the community recently, that is the tool called Voyager and Voyager 2, that allows you to create exploratory data analysis. We integrated that with Navio, and she managed to actually use Navio to filter data because Voyager is actually quite slow compared to Navio. So we can use that to filter data to a point in which you can actually process that with that. And you can see a poster of her later in the afternoon. In the same way, we have Felipe Sabogal that has taken Chipyard and is running that locally on your own computer. And therefore, you can access more resources and have the ability to load bigger data sets and also interact with some networks. So I'm going to leave it for you to visit it on the poster. Then really quickly moving to the general information visualization, where we are working in different areas, as you can see here, including software engineering, medicine, politics, and even some machine learning. So in there, with the first thing, it's my first master student, Nicole Basurto. She created a framework that allows you to do automatic testing for visualization, like using visual regression testing. She used the framework of Tamara Mosner for the different marks and channels and the different activities from the interactions from Wilkinson's in the literature. And from there, she came up with a framework that I don't have enough time to explain, but as you can see here, a simple visualization, and by just adding these simple lines of code, you can define an automatic test that is going to validate that your visualization is not messing up in the future. That is going to produce visual results that are going to check for colors, or space, or size, or things like that. Then we have, and I see Meili over there, and she has been working also now with Fabio in a very interesting project helping people in biological computation. I don't know if I really mentioned that. And the whole idea in there is that they have to perform some taxonomy analysis tasks that include comparing what are the different results that different matching algorithms produce. Which produce this amazing tool that I recommend you to take a look, but I don't have the time. So like here is the demo, you can go your own data there. We also have worked with the Hospital Militar, trying to find why people are coming back to the hospital. And we developed this in the past. Also with the Consejo Bogotá's Council, to try to help the counselors see whatever is the different data that it's in there. Also, even things like trying to measure the total size of illegal drugs in Colombia by looking at the news reports and just trying to see if we can measure the market in there. Business, and right now we are doing another project. We're trying to see how the government Senate votes. Going to see, here of course, but you can check this one. It's a very interactive piece that you can actually navigate right now. And to wrap up, before Pablo brings the hook and gets me down, so I also work in accessibility, that is things to help people that have different needs. And in there, especially in the area of trying to help blind people. So the first project is from Antonio de la Vega. He created a very amazing tool that it's a Chrome plugin that you can use to fix the different accessibility issues that a website can have. And you can even test it in here. You can enter your own website and it will allow you to fix that and create a version that you can actually run. We also developed some machine learning models to try to using some of the Google's platforms to try to help find what are the different good tactile graphics. So you can search for any topic and they will bring down some images from Google search and tell you if those are good or not based on the model. Then we say, hey, can we run these directly in the browser? So Carlos and Ricardo have been working on this tool, and you can come in here and test. You can upload your own files, or you can search for a specific one and get you different results. And with that, I'm just in 10 minutes. That's a small video of what we're doing. So thank you very much. We don't have time.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pablo Arredares. I'm not an official member of Imagine, but I'm a close collaborator. I work at the Department of Biomedical Engineering here at Kansas, and I am the head of the Biomedical Computer Vision. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I did my PhD in France, in the University of Paris, in applied math, and I also did a postdoc in the same lab. After that, I moved to the United States and worked at UC Berkeley for 7 years. And then in 2014, with the creation of the Biomedical Engineering Department here at UNIANES, I came back to the areas of machine learning, computer vision, and biomedical image analysis. So I'm going to present the work of my students, what we're currently doing. So we work in two main areas, the computer vision and then the machine learning applications to the biomedical data. So first, the applications to computer vision. So where is that timer? Timer, that's better. So the first application is in the video segmentation. The setup here is that we have a video and then we have a segmentation for the first frame of some objects of interest, and then the goal is to follow those objects to track them across the video. Second project, so the first project is in collaboration with the University of Freiburg and Gauss in Saudi Arabia. The second project is on the emotion recognition. So here we have images or short sequences of faces, and then we want to figure out the emotion of the people here. More precisely, it's not only the global emotions that we want to analyze, but the micro expressions, like contracting the individual muscles in the face, which allow us to get kind of a much larger set of applications, for instance, depression diagnosis or light patient. Another project is on image generation, a topic which is very trendy nowadays in computer vision. So there we have modes of generative adversarial networks, and starting from an image, we want to generate. We want the computer to hallucinate different versions of that image. For instance, here putting some eyeglasses or some bands on this actor. Okay, another project. This one is in the interface between computer vision and natural language understanding. So here the input is an image and also a sentence that refers to some object in the image. So, and we want to segment that object. For instance, here we want the lighter force between 3 dot forces. This is the annotation, and this is what our algorithm outputs. Here's another example: the player with shirt 16, and then the algorithm correctly identifies that person in the scene. So this project was presented a couple of months ago at ECCD in Munich, and will be in the poster session this afternoon. Another research direction, we work with light fields. So here the goal, so the data is for dimensional. What we have is many different views for some scene, and what we would like to do is to reconstruct the scene or the depth information starting from these many views. Okay, so those are the projects on the computer vision side, and we also have the applications of machine learning to biomedical data and also to physics. So our first project here is on the segmentation and parsing of brain tumors. So we have MRIs of the brain and these lesions, and we would like not only to separate the tumor from the healthy brain, but also to parse the tumor, which means to find different subregions, the edema around it, or the enhancing core. This, of course, is purpose to plan the surgeries. Another project is on detection of lung cancer. So here the data is computer tomographies of the chest, and the challenge is to detect these lung nodules very early when they're very small, maybe 3 or 2 millimeters in diameter, as you can see in these examples. And the emphasis on early detection is because so that's the only stage at which a treatment can really change the outcome of the disease. When you go to the doctor and you're really sick, you have a big tumor, maybe it's too late for him to improve your quality of life. I different project is one also. With this project, we won the national challenge early this year, and it was presented in Washington. Here we have another project. This one is in collaboration with Fundación Santa Fe, a big hospital here, and with Stanford University. What we're trying to do is to predict the bone age of children. The bone age is not the same as your chronological age, it's the development of your bones, and it turns out that this information is really key to predict the height of the child when in adulthood. So we try to do that early, and it helps diagnose growth abnormalities. Another project in collaboration here with Professor Valderrama in biomedical engineering is on detecting epilepsy crisis. So here the data is EEGs from patients, and then we need to determine exactly the point at which the crisis starts and ends. And finally, another project here in collaboration with Professor Jaime Forero from astrophysics and Professor Marcel Hernandez from computer science and mining is to detect transient objects in images of the sky. So we want to detect objects that appear and then disappear. Of course, that has the applications for our survival in the long term in these planet. So, and then the most important slide, of course, this is not my work, under the mouthpiece here is the work of all my students, and some of them are here in the audience, so you may interact with them in the day or later in the poster session. So, thank you very much. I hope I was on time.
Good morning. We will thank you for your assistance to this international seminar on visual computing. I'm glad to participate in this seminar. I'm Fernando de la Rosa, and I am Associate Professor of the Imagining Group for the last more or less 20 years. And I would like to present several works in the last year that I'm working in mobile robotics. So the main subject that I'm working in this last 5 years are about first one in machine learning applied to mobile robotics, and in this subject we are working on path planning, on motion path planning, to define a safe motion to one mobile robot or to a team of mobile robots. And the second one is the human-robot interaction, in which we use machine learning techniques to recognize gesture of the people and gesture and motion. And also the emotion of the people to communicate with autonomous robot, with humanoid robots. And the idea is to define a natural interaction between people and these robots. The third subject is mobile robotics using used to learn computer programming. The idea is to define web application to learn to elementary students how to program computers by using programs defined in mobile robotics. So in this context, it's easier for students to learn to program a computer program. And the last main subject that I work is motion planning for multiple robots. In this context, we resolve the problem of multiple motion path planning and multiple segment travel problem. The idea is to resolve these problems based on a team of mobile robots. And some work in progress are the following. First one, this semester we have a student from Technical University of Kaiserslautern, who is Philip Face. He is a hard worker student because he's working in this subject, human recognition and motion tracking for service robot. So here we have an example of the idea of the work. The mobile robots, the idea is that the mobile robots try to follow a person. So here we have Philip making some tests of his project, and the solution is based in 2 steps. The first one is the classification of the detection of the legs of the person. So we use the laser range finder in the mobile robots to detect the legs of a person, and with a technique based on machine learning, we identify and classify if the information detected by the laser is a person or not. So here we have the detection of the legs of a person, or the detection of the background of the scene. And after that, after the result of the classification, the idea is to follow or to track the person when he or she is moving. So the second step is to track the person, and we use the joint probabilistic data association filter to define to make a prediction of the motion of the person, and to try to follow the person in his trajectory. So the combination of these steps enable us to enable the robot to follow a person. The second work that are working in the moment is the three-dimensional path planning for drones supported by virtual reality technology. This work is proposed by Nelson Sanchez, who is a student from our postgraduate program. And the idea is to facilitate the design and execution of three-dimensional drones paths by using VR technology. So in this case, the users are not expert in the flying of drones. So the people can make the path planning in a virtual reality system using 3D glasses and using some devices to interact in the virtual reality environment, and the person can define the trajectory of the drone in a 3D space, and after that he can manipulate the path of the drone in an easy way in this environment, and after that the person is safe that this is the path that the drone will follow. This path, this trajectory can be executed in a real environment, and the user also can supervise the execution of the path. So we are working in this subject. And the last one is the definition of a mobile software architecture involving MindStar EV3 robots. And in this case, the idea is to facilitate the definition of different tasks using a mobile software architecture that is defined by a mobile application that communicates with a server application, and the server application has communication with the EV3 mobile robots. So the idea is to define a set of tasks or application using this architecture. What is the next in this subject? I would to continue to work in UAVs because nowadays it's very important to use this type of devices, and they can facilitate the execution of different tasks for people in different environments, in different real products. And the second subject that I want to work is in social robotics. So in this part, I would like to work with humanoid robots and to work in human-robot interaction, use image and vision processing information, and finally, to work in voice, face, and gesture recognition. I would like to thank you, many collaborators, mainly some professors in this university and other universities, and mainly to our students that have been these works reality. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I am very happy to be here with you and very proud to be the only one in this research team. So my name
We are
is,
very happy.
thank you. My name is Marcela Hernandez. I am also professor of our Systems and Computer Engineering department. And I'm of my past academic history. I obtained my undergraduate diploma in this university 25 years ago, and then I obtained a master's degree also from UNIARTES, and then I traveled to France to obtain another master's degree in biomedical imaging, and then the PhD diploma. I was working with Isabel Mañan. She was my advisor during my PhD work, and it was 20 years ago, and in all these several years I am working on image processing, mainly medical image processing, because my PhD is in biomedical field, but in this country we have several opportunities to work with several professional fields. So I will show you a project that is in other field than medical one. Presently, I am in charge of the programming courses at our department, and it takes a lot of time of my work. But I will continue to make my research, and I think that's the main important of issues of my past. So, in the research field, as I told you, I am working on image processing, mainly medical image processing, but also on astronomical image processing actually. So this is a very important project in which I am involved. This it concerns the IRDS syndrome. It's an acute respiratory distress syndrome, and this is a very serious disease which occurs when the fluids goes inside the lungs and make the alveoli collapse. So the patients are very, very ill, and most of them don't survive. It's a very high percent of patients that die of it. And this disease is caused by several external factors, trauma, like, for example, a shock from a car accident, or the inhalation of breathing of gases, or a blood infection. And the syndrome is not really cured. There is no cure for this syndrome, so the patient must be treated at the intensive care units, and the patient is submitted to a mechanical ventilation in order to put oxygen in the lungs and to allow the patient to breathe. The problem with this mechanical ventilator is that the parameters of this machine are adjusted manually. There are two main parameters: the pressure and the volume of the air. And if these parameters are not correctly adjusted, the patient will die. If there is not enough pressure or volume, there is hypoxemia or asphyxia, and the patient will die. And if the pressure and volume are too high, the lung may explode. So we are working in order to help the physician or the manipulators of the machines to find the optimal parameters for each case, for each patient. Here we can see CT image of the lung. It is a diseased lung because normally in a health lung, this portion of the image, this region, must be almost black because the air is black in this kind of image. But in the presence of fluids, there is a several opacities, which are these gray regions, and we are working to segment, so to find where are the boundaries of the lung, and to try to quantify each type of tissue. I mean, where is the tissue that is normally aerated, which is shown in blue in this image, or non-aerated, for example, in order to measure the local recruitment, which is the recruitment is the capacity of the alveoli to ventilate, to open in response of the oxygen that is provided to the patient. We would like also to measure the air density change locally and the tissue inhomogeneity in order to evaluate if the mechanical ventilation is causing some kind of injury in the lung. So that this project is developed in collaboration with Praxis. So Praxis is the laboratory where I am doing my PhD, and it is my main scientific partner in my story. Well, a second very important project is called CABAT. CABAT is a software. It means computer-assisted analysis of visceral adipose tissue or CT images. What it means? The visceral adipose tissue is the adipose tissue which is located at the abdominal region, and it is related with another syndrome which is called metabolic syndrome, and this syndrome is related to the possibility of cardiovascular accidents. So if you have more you have the fat in your abdomen, the risk of sorry, I am very tired. The risk of the occurrence of a cardiovascular accident is high. So this software is developed. This software works on CT images, and it is able to segment, so to recognize the adipose tissue. There are two kinds of adipose tissue at the abdominal region: the subcutaneous one, which is shown in blue color, and the visceral fat, which is shown in red. And the finding purpose is to quantify this visceral fat, which is the most dangerous for our health. And now we are also working on the segmentation of the extraction of this muscle. This is the paravertebral muscle, because not only the fat tissue is important to diagnose the metabolic syndrome, but also the relation between this fat and the muscle. The most important result of this project is a patent. So we obtained a patent in 3 countries: Japan, USA, no, 6 countries, sorry. Japan, USA, and France, Holland, and Germany. And actually, we are seeking for patents because we would like to transfer this software to the industry. And our main collaborators in this project are the Hospital Universitario San Ignacio in Bogotá and the Hospice de Lyon in France. So I will present the last slide. So this is a project which is out of the scope of the medical domain. It's in the astrophysics, astronomical image processing, and Pablo told some words about it. So our purpose is to find these very small objects in the astronomical images, and its objects are called transient objects, and the characteristic is that they appear and disappear all the time, like the supernova, for example. And it's a very, very big project developed in collaboration with 25 other countries. And our team works directly with the CPPM, the Centre de Physique de Particules de Marseille, and our objective is this very small collaboration in the very project which is called the LSST, this Large Synoptic Orbit Telescope. It will be the most big telescope in our planet, and it is under construction. It will be operational in 3 years. That's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, since I will have less than 10 minutes, so thank you very much for being here again. My name is Pablo Figueroa. I'm an associate professor here at the University of Los Andes in the Systems and Computing Engineering Department. And as part of Imagine, I'm delighted to show you what we have done in the past years. This is a picture of a very old version of me now. I won't say how old. But it shows something that it doesn't exist anymore. First, Mafalda. There are not many people that know Mafalda anymore. A very nice cartoon from Chile, as far as I remember. Argentina, sorry, I always get it. And the second thing, there is a tracker, there is a cable that goes to my head. I don't have the tracker anymore. It's just the old way that we do that we used virtual reality to know where the user was checking, what kind of information more than just the keyboard and mouse you could get from this user. So that has been my interest for a while, virtual reality. If we go to the broader spectrum, mixed reality in general, only creating worlds in which you can be immersed, but also worlds that can be combined with the real world. Most of the technology that you use to develop virtual reality or mixed reality in general right now come from the video games industry. So we are doing transfer and transfer of knowledge for this industry in Colombia. And that means in some way that I'm working in software engineering from the point of view of how to develop these games, how to develop mixed reality environments. I've been in Imagine since its origins, at least 20 years, I would say much, but a little bit more than that. So I will try to show some highlights on what we have done in the past, what we are doing, and what we would like to do in the future. The main thing that we would like to do here is to show that these technologies, virtual reality and augmented reality, could be used for things that matter to us. And the best example of that is an installation that we did for our Gold Museum. If you don't know the Gold Museum, I hope all of you know it. It's the first thing that you should really try here in Colombia. It's a very fine museum close by, and it has really interesting pieces from our Spaniard, pre-Spaniard people. And we did an exhibition that is still running, luckily enough, that allows us to touch, listen, and see in 3D 6 of the pieces of the installation that they have at the museum. This installation was at the museum for about a year. People really enjoyed it, especially kids. We had to convince adults to use the technology, and once they use it, it was really interesting for them also to try. But as any new technology, a little bit, it looks dangerous at the beginning, and in general, what we learned from that is that all people, as us, as I would say, don't tend to use this whole technology at the beginning. We have to approach it gently, and it's one of the issues that we are still struggling. But it's something that you will see. It's the oldest of the demos that you will see in the lab later on in the afternoon. We also managed to do a large project for about 4 years with 4 companies that work in video games animation in our country. And for research groups, in something that we call the Project David, it was something related to development of the animation video games in Colombia. And from that project, there were several lessons. First, learning how to work in those big projects is really difficult. How to get all the companies together and pursue the same type of goals, despite the fact that they were doing all of the video games. But at the end, there were really interesting results in mostly material that people from the video game industry could use in order to learn how to use this technology and start developing games. One particular example with the Ministry of IT here in Colombia, we managed to do something like 160 hours of teaching on how to develop video games both for programmers and for designers. And it's something that is available countrywide for all the installations that the Ministry of IT has, which are called Vive Labs. They have computer labs that are well capable of creating video games. There's more than 20 cities in the country. Some of the results of those games are the pictures that you see on the right. We did in 2015 a first version of that content for the country. There were 2,000 people involved, and from a subset of those 2,000 people created about 100 games, small games that you can see some of the pictures on the right bottom. What we are doing now, we are creating more content related to education and to installations. So there are several examples here. The biggest one is a set of courses that we created with Coursera in Spanish for the video game industry, again, in the Latin America and Ibero-America environment. And those courses are, as any MOOC, very popular at the beginning, about 20,000 students in total, but very few finish all the courses at the end. I can say how many, but it's about 1 to 3%, which is the normal rate everywhere with this type of courses. And we are learning from this experience and trying to make better ways to teach this topic and other topics here. On the bottom right, you see an installation that you're also invited to try. Here in the 7th floor, close to our department, secretary of the department, we created something with 2 screens and a Kinect, the less invasive device that we could thought. And we are creating experiences to show people that they can interact with the information that we are showing in the screen. So, for example, people can see some of the pictures of this 20th anniversary from Imagine and also the 50th anniversary of the department. And there are other installations that you will also see in the posters later on from our students. One for facial identification and the other related also to how to show information and interact with information from Twitter. On the top right, you see a very simple but interesting application that we did with a company. Is based on 360 videos and 3D content. It allows people to see their apartment and change the color of their sofas and furniture that they have, and change the furniture that they have. And the main idea is how do we envision that shopping will be in the future, both for apartments and for furniture in your home. And they are starting to sell these for some companies in Colombia. And it's interesting, this collaboration between companies that are interested in new technology and us that are doing research and technological transfer with this type of topics. And for the future, there are many things that we would like to do. And here is also a brief overview of 3 topics that are really interesting for us. I'll start with the only picture that is in mind here, is in the bottom right, is the new device that is very very exciting in some ways, an augmented reality device that was very famous because it received a lot of funding from Google for a while, and we didn't know what was the device until very recently, 2 months ago. I think Carolina and Steven already have tried and have some in their labs. We are expecting ours soon after imports, everything happen. But it's just to show that this field of virtual reality and augmented reality is very active, it's very lively, and it's very interesting to see what we can do with this type of technology. And it's not really the technology, it's how we can use it for several uses, in particular here in Colombia. And we are looking forward to see what kind of uses we can do for this device. A previous device that is very related, the HoloLens from Microsoft. One of our students was doing a teaching environment for how to play a guitar. He's a professional guitar player, and he was interested in how to teach somebody that is somewhere else at an expert level some kind of guitar expert things that I don't know because I'm not an expert thing guy. But in that sense, what we were doing is approaching a new content, a new area of research with devices that are available everywhere. Actually, there are two pictures that are on mine. The other one on the right, the top right, is something very interesting that is happening in the computer graphics world related to how to produce very fine images in real time. This is a picture of denoising in ray tracing images, and it's possible to do right now real-time ray tracing. And hopefully in the future we'll see very high quality pictures in virtual reality. And that is something very exciting that we are looking forward to. On the left, you see a picture of the lab, Colibri, that you'll see this afternoon. There are several demos that we want to show you. But what is interesting for me is that all the devices that we have 4 people here, all the devices are different and we are sharing the same application. How we manage to make an application that is possible to interact from different devices, all of them doing the same at different levels of comfortability, because you can imagine that it's better to have a bigger equipment than a small equipment that is only the cell phone in your head. But we managed to make it work, and that is something that we are exploring further, to make what we call these heterogeneous distributed mixed reality applications more worldwide and more useful. So that's what I wanted to show. And I again thank all of you to listen to us, and we are open for questions. Two or three questions that you may have for any of us. If not, there is some coffee that is waiting for us. Hans.
Maybe there's one more general question. If you look at your gamings, then you are creating kind of worlds you So, how much do you include sound and other things? What else can you include which increases the reality? Any thoughts in this direction? I think you are aiming at an immersive scenario. And is there anything, or is it already done, or are you happy? How immersive are these games?
It's a very interesting question. I was mostly showing what we can do in terms of visualization, with information in your eyes for these virtual reality environments. But let's not forget that we not only see, but we also listen. We have our senses. And the example that you see with the Gold Museum is, I think, a good example. We are still not happy but the experience that you get once you can touch and once you can listen, not only see this type of pieces is really, really amazing. So I would say sound anytime is at least 50% of the experience. We could do a lot better, but again, let's not forget that the video game industry is doing a lot of work for us. All the tools that you use right now to develop this type of mixed reality environments come with a lot of lessons learned, not only in 3D graphics, but also in audio. And in terms of audio, you can get the organization very easy. It's not perfect, especially if you start changing the environment. There are many things moving, but it's good enough for most of the applications that we are doing. That was the Go Museum example, and I really encourage you to try this afternoon. For the games that we have done, we always encourage our students to pursue it. The main problem is that when you develop games, you really have to have a lot of people together with all the expertises. So usually we get 3 or 4 people. At least you can have you should have a programmer and a designer in that team. But it's more difficult to get the musician that will create the experience that we would like to create. So we can add, and there are tons of resources that you can get from the internet. You can add some sounds, but usually it's better if you can have a musician working with you in the design. One last question.
In all the presentation we saw, I would like to ask you, what are the main, for you, what are the main difficulties that you encounter? What are the problems you have when you try to program and to have these interesting virtual environments? And what are the limitations you would like to overcome for the future? Because those questions were asked to us, so before I ask you, what do you think about that? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a very big question, and I'll try to be fast. I think the main issue is reliability. How reliable is the type of experience that you can create? Just to give you an example, the Kinect several years ago was a really big show for Microsoft, but in some way died. And why it happened? Because it's not really reliable for all the conditions of life and for the houses that you can find in all the situations where it can be used. You have to control a lot of issues in order to make a really nice experience. So we can get the people, we can do experiments, we can show that this technology is very useful, but once you get into the public scenario, it's very difficult to have a consistent experience for all the users. And that is something that we are starting to notice and talking and see how we can come up with better solutions. There are other issues that I won't talk about, funding and students, and those are things that we can discuss later. But this reliability on the mixed reality technology is something that we can still improve more, and we are still strong. Thank you. So, is working.
Hello. I would like to complete Paul's answer, and I agree that our most big problem is the funding.
I don't want to say that.
But especially in Colombia, we have some difficulties with Conciencias, which is our national funding agency. And in the medical domain, I think that another very big challenge or problem is the availability of the physicians to first to work with us. Yeah, they are very optimistic and that they don't have time to do the research, and especially in the validation phases in the project, because we don't have a standard reference or gold standard reference to validate our developments, and we need the physicians to create this reference, and it takes a lot of time, and they are very, very busy with their patients. So I think that in my domain, there are the two big difficulties.
Thank you, Marcelo. We have to go for our coffee and break. It's a very short break, it's about 50 minutes. So I thank all of you for listening to us. If you have more questions, please ask us during the break or this afternoon. We'll be around. And let's continue. Please enjoy your break and see you soon.